I'm moving quite along into Genesis, but one chapter I did not want to skip is chapter 24 of Genesis. And this is discussing the finding of the bride of Isaac. And as you know, Isaac was called the only begotten son. He's truly called that, the only begotten son of Abraham. And there are so many similarities between Isaac and Yeshua. It's beautiful and amazing at the same time. And so as this servant goes out to find a bride, okay, you're going to have to kind of think along these lines with me of a servant being sent to find a bride for the master and the master's son. So just follow along with me as I do this. This is more of a bullet point, and I'm going to be reading a lot of this. But just as you go through the chapter 24, just allow the Holy Spirit to talk to you and open your eyes into the role of the bride, which is us. So Isaac, of course, is called the only begotten son of Abraham. Abraham is, of course, the father of the son. He asks his servant, and as I'm looking through this, it actually looks like a picture of the Holy Spirit as he seeks out a bride. So he asks his servant to find a bride for his son. Then he says, if she refuses, then this servant is free of his obligation. The servant is bringing gifts to the bride, okay, just like the Holy Spirit does. We're given gifts of the Holy Spirit. He decided to wait by a well, which offers living water. And if you look through the Bible, you'll see many covenants and brides were found at wells, like Moses and his wife, and Hagar was given a covenant at a well, and the woman at the well. This is all promises made during that time, covenants, brides. Okay, so the servant asks for grace to locate the bride, and he asks this grace from the Lord. And he says, okay, I will have whoever is the one that I ask for a drink, she will give me a drink, and she will also water my camels also. And camels are a picture of something that's unclean. They look clean because their hooves look split, but they are not. They are whole, and so they are considered unclean. They chew cud, but their hooves are not split, and so they kind of look the part, but they're not really clean. Okay, so it's unclean. So one who serves the unclean as well and serves others. He had 10 camels with him. Now 10 also represents like the scattered nations, and it is also the number for testimony. So when you're talking about unclean, you're looking at scattered nations as well, and unclean, the field, country, that kind of thing. as we read through the story, we see that the bride was ready to serve. Okay, that's the role of the bride, is to be ready to serve. She drew water for all and all the camels, and they can take a lot of water, and that takes time and patience. So she had that. A gold ring was offered, which is a symbol of a covenant. It weighed a half of a shekel, which is the price that's required to be counted or redeemed. She was also given 2 bracelets. Now, 2, whenever you see 2 in the scriptures, usually that points to testimony. It's a picture because there had to be 2 witnesses. So something that's being confirmed. Also, as I've been studying, it could possibly be a picture of Judah and Israel, one as the bride. So I thought that was a very beautiful picture. Okay, she was the daughter of Bethuel. Now, Bethuel means house of God. So she was the daughter of the house of God. And the son of Milcah, which means queen, whom she bore to Nahor, which means noble one. So, that was interesting. There was plenty of room in her home, room for all. So she's, that's almost talking about the picture of the bride's home. She opens it up to care. The servant thanked the Lord for guiding him to find a bride for the master. And so then she runs to tell the others, and they sit down to dinner, but the servant would not eat until a formal answer of commitment was given. And when I first read that, it reminded me of how Yeshua said, I will not do this again until I see you. And we have, eat together again at the feast. So the servant told everyone at the table how his master had given his son, the master's son, all of his riches. So the master's son, think Yeshua, had all of the riches, was given all the riches, and this master wanted a bride for his son. So he was seeking this. And so the whole story is recounted there at the table. And Laban heard the servant's story and said that the matter, and that word matter is debar, the word, that matter comes from the Lord. So he confirmed that all of this was from the Lord and that he could not argue against it. So the servant bowed to the Lord in thanksgiving. The bride was given gold, silver, and new garments. Okay, this reminds me that, this is what the children of Israel were given when they left Egypt and had just experienced freedom from slavery. And this is what we will be given. We're given new garments when we have freedom from slavery. And of course, we will be dressed pure white. Spotless bride. So Laban wanted more time with Rebekah, Laban and his family. But he honored the bride, and they asked if she would go. And she said, I will go. The family blessed the bride with the blessings of this. They blessed her with becoming thousands of 10,000s, and that her descendants would take possession of the gates of their enemy. And that, of course, reminded me of the gates of hell will not prevail. So I love that. They mounted the camels, so a picture of the nations. So they were escorted by the nations back to the master. Now, at this point, Isaac comes on the scene. And if you read through these past few chapters, he is not mentioned at all until this point. And the last time he was mentioned was when he was on the altar being sacrificed by his father, and a ram took his place. And so it was considered that he was resurrected from the dead. As good as dead, resurrected from the dead. But if you'll read that story, only Abraham comes down from the mountain. The next time we see him is now. Okay. I love that. Okay. He had gone out. Isaac was in the field. And it was toward evening. Now this word evening is the word, this particular word evening is et, which means season, time, or a time of an occurrence of an event. Okay, so remember that. He had gone out into the field toward evening. Now, occasionally, the king went out to the field, away from the palace to be with people so that he could be approachable even by peasants. And field, if you remember, field also means country, nations, that kind of thing. I'm going to go ahead and mention this to you. In the month of Elul, okay, this is the month before Yom Kippur, which is considered the wedding day. Anyway, on the month of Elul, which is 40 days before the wedding day, the day of covering, Yom Kippur, is a time of work before the king's wedding. Okay? So a sowing, plowing, reaping, making sheaves, threshing, winnowing, picking chaff from the grain. Yeshua did this. Okay, think of all we're doing before the wedding supper of the Lamb. Okay, think of all that the bride is doing. Think of all that we are doing, before this. Milling, sifting, kneading, baking, and soon though we will leave the field, we will leave the work and enter into the royal presence of the King in his rest. And we will see him face to face. Because if you read in the story, when the bride meets Isaac, she first sees Isaac and she asks the servant, "Who is this in the field?" And he says, "That is my master." So the term master changes from the father and now to the son. That is my master. So when she hears that, she puts on her veil and walks out to meet him. In his rest, we will see him with unveiled faces, and we will see him face to face. So at that point, the servant offered testimony to Isaac of all that had happened. And he then took Rebekah into his mother's home, and she satisfied his heart. She gave him peace and shalom after the death of his mother. So, these are all it's just amazing, the whole correlation, it's just beautiful. And the bottom line is the servant seeks a bride for his master. So the question is, how will we respond? Will he find us drinking and offering others drink from the living water? Will we respond with, I will go? Will we accept his gifts and rise to the calling as the bride of the Master? Will he be fully satisfied with his bride, one who may offer him in return shalom, peace? We are told that we are the bride, but we also have to agree to it. And then we have to live the role. You are being sought. We are being sought as bride. May we rise up and fulfill that role by the power and name of our Master and our betrothed, Yeshua. Blessings to you, his blessings.